Hey, TBT goals from last time. We want to have 8 minutes. We want to have a $1,500 army with I don't know, like 33 workers or something. What did you just do? Why'd you do that? That was weird. So 8 minutes, 34 workers good, 1,000 army bad. Um, I don't know if you're copying someone else's build, or if you're just still doing the same build, but this build is gonna get you killed. Whatever. I'm thinking. Not good enough. Whatever. Marines in a siege tank. It's better than before, where you had Marines without upgrades with 2 bunkers and no siege tank, no siege mode. I would still like to see you have a $1,500 army of pure Marines with combat shields on the way or whatever. But if you want to go for an early tank, that works too. Some Banshee harass. One of the coolest things about fast expanding is you have so many scans, man.
Our SCVs are under attack.
Not bad, 7 kills. But remember, he's one basing in order to get that Banshee out there in time. So you actually end up ahead on workers by 11. So you'll see a lot of this where someone's really good at controlling Banshees, but they're in the Platinum League with you. So you know that if they're that good at controlling Banshees, they must be pretty bad at something else. I don't know if that sounded insulting. I'm gonna say things that sound insulting, and you just gotta trust me that I don't mean to be insulting. Even if I am, I don't know. All I can do is apologize. I'm just frustrated because the stupid recording program keeps deleting my freaking VODs, so I have to cast the same games multiple times. More Cloaked Banshees. This is silly, basically. You've got turrets, you're immune to these Cloaked Banshees, so he's just trying to get something done and he can't. He is forcing a lot of turrets, and your money is climbing pretty high, but I don't know. It's not really doing any damage, and you're way ahead on workers, and you've got much more money coming on than he does. You're getting multiple starports. In general, if he goes double starport, you kind of have to go double starport back. But he didn't go double starport. He just made 3 Banshees out of 1 starport. I guess you didn't scan him, or you did scan him, but you didn't. You don't see double starport. It's just why are you getting two starports is the real question. So anyway, I believe that our goal is to have 200U at 15 minutes, and like if you fast expand, that's what you should be going for. $9,000 200U army at 15 minutes, and you have a $4,000 130 supply army at 15 minutes, and a big part of it is all these turrets. And while I do like the turrets because he committed so heavily to Cloaked Banshees, and turrets are much more cost effective than Cloaked Banshees, the idea is that you want a turret here, a turret here, a single turret here, a single turret. Actually, this covers all the way to the thing. So you only need a single turret here, and then a single turret here, and a single turret here. So 5 turrets can cover your entire main and natural. Maybe a 6th turret here if he's really harassing where you're keeping your army. But even then, who cares? Let him harass where you're keeping your army. Once you have stim, all those things are going to die. And until then, you can just keep your army slightly further back near one of the other turrets. So 5 turrets is $500. Whereas 3 Banshees and Cloak is a lot, like 1,100. So it's much more cost efficient to make 5 turrets. But once you get up to the 10 turret mark or the 15 turret mark, it becomes a little bit silly. You just don't need that many turrets. So plan your turret placement a little better. This turret, for example, is never going to come into play because of this turret is already covering the same spot as this. Like, it's covering to the island. Also, I think there's a gap between these two turrets. That's a little bit weird. I don't know for sure though. For sure, man. For sure. It's fun to say. You took your third pretty early, and I like that. It's good. You've got a bunch of tanks in front, Marines behind, just like we talked about. That's great. Again, your army is massively bigger than his. I'm not sure if your plan is to attack or... Because the way that Marine tank works, Marines are cost inefficient. If you max out on Marine tank, that's a pretty small army. Anytime you max out on Marines, it's bad. Marines are something that are really powerful at 192 supply. Right now, your Marine army is awesome. But if you go all the way to 200 and then you wait, then your army becomes crap. It's a supply and efficiency problem. They're only $50 per supply, whereas a tank is $125 per supply, like more than double. So imagine that your opponent maxes on pure tanks and you max on pure Marines, and you have 80 workers and he has 30. His army value is going to be 12,000 and your army value is going to be 6,000. So he's going to have double your army size, despite the fact that you got more money than him and you maxed out first. If you don't attack when you just maxed out on a low value unit, you're going to die. So I'm concerned that you're at 200U on Marine tank. Your total army size is only 9k and you're not attacking, right? You should be attacking, is my point. Also, I noticed from your prior games that your game plan was generally to do a bunch of drops in a bunch of places at once. And I told you not to do that because they weren't paying off in TVT. But I think that maybe you're kind of unfamiliar with how ball play works, how death ball play works in TVT. Point is, attack him at like 140 supply, not at 200. Well, it's funny because I watched a TVP of yours before, and the Protoss attacked you at 160 supply, and I was like, why would anyone attack at 160 supply when he could wait till 200? It's important for you to note that I'm not contradicting myself. I do mean both of those things. So Protoss units have a much higher value per supply than Terran units. Especially Colossus and, you know, generally high-value things like Colossus Immortals and High Templars or Siege Tanks and Vikings and Battle Cruisers. Those are the types of units where if your army is made of mostly those, you should never attack until 200U because you're going to have a very high-value 200U army. Low-value things like Charge Lots and Marines and Zerglings and Roaches, those are the opposite. You need to attack before you max out because they're so bad per supply. So they're two separate ways to play, and it's important that you use them the right way. So anyway, in this case, you're going mostly Marine, so you need to attack before 200U. If you were going mech, if you were going tank, Thor, Hellion, then it would be really important that you not attack until 200U. Anyway, I don't think there's any way you can lose from here. Your opponent is now stuck on 2 bases. You're going to kill his third and just camp here with tanks and Vikings and make more tanks and more Vikings. And take a fourth and get gas over here and start producing higher value units, probably battle cruisers. And yeah. I'm being a little bit facetious. I'm saying what you should be doing. That's not necessarily what you're going to do. See, your money is piling up because you attacked so late. It's important to note this high value concept, right? So if you go for a low value army composition like Marine tank, you need to either be suiciding, trading your army for his army over and over and over constantly, or if you're going to get to a point, in TVT this is almost always going to happen, you're going to get to a point where you're containing him outside his base and there's no point in attacking up his ramp into his pre-sieged tanks, then you need to stop making Marines. So what you do, you max out by 15 minutes, right? So that means around 14 minutes you're going to have about 160 supply with 2-2 finished, or 2-2 on the way, or whatever. You make a big attack with your 160 supply army, and you try to trade evenly. And then if you lose enough units to keep making Marines and tanks, then so be it. You keep making Marines and tanks. And then you attack him again. And if you finally, he fights you off to a point where there's no reason to attack him. He's got a giant turret ring down here. He doesn't have a third. And he's got tons of tanks at his front. There's no longer a way to attack him. You can't drop him. You can't push the ramp. But he can't get out either. So you win if you just wait and starve him out, right? You take bases, he can't, and then you win. At that point is when you say, all right, I'm going to not make a single more Marine from now on because I've got him to this point, this stalemate where I wanted to be. And then from then on, you make only Vikings, battle cruisers, and tanks. And if a big fight happens, if he tries to push down his ramp and he trades for your Marines, then you start making Marines again. Anytime your supply gets low, you make a bunch of Marines. Anytime you're not planning to lose troops for a little while, you stop making Marines. So anyway, as the game goes on, you want to add more and more factories, more and more starports, and make tanks, Vikings, and battle cruisers. You don't necessarily need to make battle cruisers if you don't want to. A lot of people don't. Tanks and Vikings counter literally everything in TVT. There's no counter to tank Viking in TVT as long as you have more money, specifically more gas. Another thing, there's never a reason to right-click a planetary fortress with tanks. Your tanks are going to shoot at whatever's the highest priority target within range. And that's usually the best thing for them to be doing. If there's a PF and there's 3 Marines, it's better to shoot those Marines than the PF. So, you know, let them shoot at whatever they want. Don't do that. You lost 3 tanks because you right-clicked the PF, and you just don't need to. At this point, perfect. You're using your vision superiority to encroach upon the high ground. Good things are happening in general. But you're still, notice how in the production menu you've still got Marines coming. This is bad. Don't keep making Marines. Anyway, I don't think there's any way you can win this game from here. He does a stupid tank drop, which doesn't matter. And more drops and other nonsense. But you easily hold it off while continuing to contain him on 2 bases. And now you're up to 1,000,000 bases. You've got tons of money in the bank. This is actually a bad thing. To have this much money in the bank, this is money that's not helping you. So it's a good thing in that it means that you're crushing him. Like, he has no money and you have billions of dollars. That means you're crushing him. But it's also a bad thing in that you should have switched to super expensive units early enough so that you could never get a giant bank. And you see this a lot in people who are in lower leagues. And Platinum is a pretty high league, actually. But the thing is, I tend not to see this in the games I play or the games Nick plays or Masters League people, because there's just this relentless aggression concept. Unless you're meching and he's also meching, where both of you are just waiting for an infinite army value, like it's really rare that you'll see a game where somebody gets this much money. Anyway, whatever. Game's over. You win. He keeps trying to base trade, but you can just walk home and kill him. So your TVZ homework assignment was to do a build where you actually have 45 or more workers by 10 minutes, because you showed that you're really good at TVZ, and yet you're doing really well in TVZ without even having an army or any workers. Very silly. I have to make workers. And you can use allied chat if you want to talk to me, but not him. Okay, so I went into a big long speech. I've already watched this game, and I told you all sorts of important bits of information. So, first of all, you did great. You had lots of workers, and that is awesome. So I'm very proud of you. But this wall-in. So, in TVZ, there are some standard things you need to worry about, okay? A 6-minute Baneling bust is going to be 13 drones from him, probably 22 Lings and 5 Banelings. And you're immune to it right now because you have multiple wall-ins, right? He can't do a 6-minute Baneling bust against multiple wall-ins, especially with bunkers on the low ground and stuff like that. So you're not really worried about that in this case. An 8-minute Baneling bust is a very different story. From the Zerg's perspective, when you baneling bust, you want as much minerals as you can possibly have and turn all those minerals into as many lings as you can possibly have, and then just get the bare minimum amount of gas and the bare minimum number of banelings so that you can bust through the wall, right? The more banelings you force him to get, the fewer zerglings he can get. And if he can't even get like 40 zerglings, then he can't even kill these bunkers. So there are 3 ways to deal with the possibility of roach baneling, ling baneling stuff. The first way is to get a tank before 8 minutes. If you have a tank before 8 minutes and you have even a wussy wallin, he's going to see the tank and he's just going to go home because you can't do shit against a tank. Second way, get banshees. Hellions and banshees early enough. Same idea. He's going to see the banshee and he's going to know that I'm going to lose 1 baneling per 2.5 seconds. There's no point in staying out here. And he's just going to go home. I don't recommend either of those to you because, I mean, Hellion Banshee is very high APM required and it's hard to do it properly, and I don't think you'd like it. And getting a tank super early is going to cut into your ability to do any sort of early marine pressure, and it's going to cost you a bunch of more gas early, and it's just going to be very different from what you're used to doing in TVZ. And also, you like tankless play, so why go for an early tank if you're going to be tankless for the rest of the game? So the third way to deal with baneling busts is to make it cost so many banelings to bust you that it's impossible for him to both have enough banelings and enough lings to do what he wants to do. So the setup you have here at 8 minutes would take him 0 banelings. If he just ran in with it's possible for a Zerg to have, I think, about $2,600 worth of lings at this point. How many lings is that? 104 lings. So imagine if he had 104 speedlings right now. You would be dead. You don't have a wall in. You could probably hold him here, but you're definitely going to lose the low ground. And then if he turns 5 of those lings into banelings, it's actually not turning 5 of them into banelings. It's turning like 20 of them into 5 banelings, because it costs him a drone to make the extractor, it costs him 3 drones to mine from the extractor, and it costs him, you know, the initial ling to morph into the baneling, as well as the price of 2 more lings to make it into a baneling. Like, banelings are really expensive. So for him to make the 5 banelings it takes to get up this ramp, he'd have to cut that 100 ling rush into an 80 ling rush. Okay, but 80 lings could still kill you if he can kill this one depot. You'd be dead. Imagine you completed the wall in. Okay, now it's going to take him 10 banelings instead of 5. So that's actually going to leave him with only 60 zerglings. 60 zerglings could still kill you. Definitely could still kill you. So you're very vulnerable to a baneling bust with this build, even if you'd completed your wall in. Now, what if you made 1 racks here, 1 racks here, and 1 racks here, and blocked off the whole thing with 3 racks? Now it's going to take him 11 banelings to get through the front, and then 5 more to get through the back. So it's going to take him 16, which is going to cut his total ling count all the way from the initial 100 down to about 40. Is 40 enough to still kill you? I don't think so. I think just by doing the triple wall in here, then you suddenly become immune to baneling bust just by having a good wall in. Now, say you do a 3 racks wall in here, and you put a bunker behind it and a bunker behind it. You know, putting the bunkers up against the walls instead of randomly out in the open like you did. And then you add another wall in right here, right? Just like a depot, a racks, and a tech lab. Boom, another wall in there. Now it's going to take him 18 banelings, which cuts his ling count down to like 40 something. And then you make this wall-in up here out of a racks. Sorry, no, this wall-in's fine. Anyway, you can do double wall-in on the high ground. Anyway, the point is every layer of wall-in that you add adds banelings, and every couple of banelings he has to make cuts his ling count dramatically. So the only way to be immune to baneling nonsense before tanks and banshees is to do lots of really thick wall-ins. And he can still pick away at a thick wall-in with roaches, but it's not nearly as deadly for that to happen, because you can repair them, you can retreat, you can use bunkers. Bunkers do great things against roaches, so on and so forth. So anyway, do a triple wall-in when you have a big wide ramp like this, and that is the moral of my story.